joined today by the legendary Kronos Quartet and the masterful Sam Green. So what do you think about Houston Cinema Arts Festival's dedication to combining aspects of the art world with that of the film world?
To me, it's interesting because a lot of film festivals are like a documentary festival or a fiction film festival or even like a mountain film festival. They're so narrow these days, and I really always admire people who have broad tastes and tastes that don't necessarily fit into super narrow categories. So I appreciate a festival that can be broad like that. Cinema arts is a great word because it means a lot of things.
It encompasses a diversity of art.
Yeah.
So how did this collaboration begin? For 1,000 Thoughts.
Well, I auditioned for Chronos in 1973. And I didn't get the position, so...
I was videotaping
Yeah.
that particular audition too.
Janet, the manager of Kronos Quartet, got in touch with me about 4 years ago to make a video for their 40th anniversary concert at Carnegie Hall, a little video that could play beforehand. And so I listened to all their music and went through their archive and was just very taken with them. A group of people who've been making music together for 40 years is a pretty incredible thing. And also their career is so interesting and varied, and they're still up for doing new things. And I just really was kind of smitten with them. And so at a certain point, Janet asked if I would be interested in doing something longer, and I proposed, rather than just a normal documentary, this kind of odder form. And to their credit, they were open to it. Some weird thing that they didn't probably really know what it was, but so we did it, and it's been fun for me, at least. I'll let them speak for themselves, but it's been fun to tour around performing this or showing it or screening it, whatever you want to call it.
I was saying to Richard this morning that when we did it for the first time at Sundance, I had no idea what to expect from the audience. I mean, we had played it in rehearsal a lot, and we were ready to go and all that, but we hadn't really had a film audience.
Yeah.
And it was a remarkable experience because for me the response was like a concert, like a film, and like a talk.
Yeah.
It was all of those, and we kind of been thinking that's sort of what we were doing.
Yeah.
And I felt like the audience got it right away, and for me it was very surprising and gratifying.
Also, well, go ahead.
Oh, I remember when we saw some of the first initial takes, and I think it was in Calgary.
Yeah.
Calgary, and we were in a hotel room, and I'm just on a plain TV there in the hotel room, and I could tell, Sam, you were really nervous. And it was kind of an interesting feeling for me because it was kind of the same nervousness as maybe you kind of get before a performance. You want people to like it, but there's kind of an unknown, but our initial reaction was, wow, this is really something special. Yeah. But there was this energy in the room.
I found the process really wonderful. Of course, Sam made that happen. His interviews were really easy because he's very easy to talk to, and he puts you at ease, and so you give more in those interviews, and I think that's really terrific. Also, the whole collaboration was great because he would show us things, as John just said, and ask for our opinion, and if we had a strong objection to something, he took that into account and changed it. Or if we had an opinion about something, he took that in and maybe made some changes. So it wasn't like his totally, or it wasn't ours totally. He talked about our music too, and what we could do to improve it as far as timing in the video itself. So it was a wonderful collaboration in that respect.
Normally with a filmmaker and musicians, it's sort of a dictatorial relationship where you send me some music and I'll tell you what I like or what to change and then put it in, and then I'll see you at the premiere. And this was really different. It's much more collaborative because they're there. They have to sort of be a part of it. And you guys also gave great ideas. I've said many times, some of the the Spectre thing at the end. I mean, they're musicians, so in a way they understand time-based art, how to put something together that builds, and so that was great. We got great ideas from them. But one other thing I wanted to mention, a lot of times at film festivals, it's audience members who aren't necessarily familiar with your music or have heard some of the soundtrack stuff but don't know your history. So that's really neat to see people whose minds are blown by this group and all the things they've done and how long they've been around. It's neat to see. So I think film festivals, there's a certain different response to the work in you all.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always that you go on the stage and you're involved in exploring some of the history of the work that's happened. We play concerts frequently, and it's more dealing with a particular moment, and it feels to me like the film does that, but it's also kind of concerning past moments, and then for me it's pointing directions towards the future as well, so it's very complex time-wise.
So what has it been like to collaborate with each other and artists of a different discipline? Has that informed your filmmaking in any way?
Well, filmmakers and musicians are so different, I think, and so it's fascinating to see how they work. I really like that. I mean, I think it's informed my work in that early on I thought, oh shit, I gotta make something that's as good as what they do, which is hard. That's a high bar. So in that sense, it was inspiring and pushed me a lot. But just to see how they work is really interesting. Musicians, they're so odd. They're so free-spirited.
I thought we had a really good rehearsal yesterday.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
there were all kinds of things that we were improving in our performance yesterday.
The pieces you played for 30 years.
Trying to make Sam happier,
But it was interesting because during that rehearsal I did start thinking of the difference, because we were saying, well, maybe let's try this. We've never done it this way. It's a brand new cue, or try this fingering or something completely different. And so it's always changing. And then I thought, gosh, in some ways I wish the film, it's a set, it's a set thing. But there's also something really nice about that. It is there, and it's all there, and it's fabulous. And we're working on, well, it's not as good as it was last time, or let's try and make it better than last time, or make it at least as good as last time. And this way, the film is set, and it's always something really spectacular.
Well, early on, remember we made some changes. There was like Sonny's Facebook thing, and it was like, let's get rid of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. So what was the philosophy behind creating this as a multimedia performance?
Well, I have always most music documentaries kind of bore me because they're so formulaic, and actually also it's mostly about the story of the group as opposed to the music itself. If you have 30 seconds of music, it's too long. People say, oh, let's change the channel or something. So with Chronos, I feel like it's not Led Zeppelin where you could do a movie about what they did in the hotel rooms after the concerts. The music is...
No, you could do that.
David did email and watched a movie. But the music itself is in some ways the most powerful element of this. And so doing a live cinema piece allows that to happen because it's an odd form. People don't have expectations. You can have 2 minutes of music and people will sit with it rather than a traditional movie where people would say that's too long. So I don't know if that answered I lost track of your question.
Yeah.
You just wonder if what's going to happen now is after people come to this. I'm just thinking about that. Next time we play in Houston, we're going to be playing a concert and somebody's going to say, well, what is Sam going to say about that? Play in New York, and that'll be the last time we'll ever be able to play there.
I want to counter Sam's remark because he said the music is the most important item. Not quite sure about that, because in this documentary, or this piece, I should say, it touches a lot of different issues, and it's about life, and those are profound moments, and a lot of those are in the film, not necessarily in the music. But pairing that with our performances, I think it makes it more special. When we did the performances at Sundance, we did 2 shows, I think, back to back, just like what we're doing here, and it got incredible response. You know, we were just floored that it would. And of course, I chalked it up. Well, Sam is a star. You know, he's known here. You know, so naturally it's going to have that. And then we did it later at the Wexner Center in Middle America, and it got the same type of response. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. So it has something of substance that people can relate to.
What's interesting about being a musician and playing live concerts is the audience becomes part of the whole experience, and you can't really replicate it in other places. So now combining that aspect of live music concert with the documentary film, and being able to see how the audience respond in different places, that's really interesting for us to experience.
And that's why it's great to come to Houston and give it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I know that
present it.
as a performer, when you're doing a live performance, you kind of feed off of the audience's energy.
Yes.
What has it been like to kind of feed off of that, the different audiences?
Well, you know, actually Sam does a lot of, I mean, he's narrating throughout, and he has little jokes or little things that there's a definite response from the audience. They don't necessarily respond to the music so much. But I mean, they're quiet, but then to hear the laughter about, oh, they got that joke, great, so they're really with us, you know. So that's a marvelous feeling.
Then there's those odd moments. Sometimes people clap after a piece of music in different places. It's sort of unpredictable, and that's always interesting to see. Oh, they're a loud crowd.
Also, what I found interesting too is just looking at myself through the years, and you know how I've changed, obviously, visually, and but it's interesting because when I was 24, when I was playing in the group when I was 24,
John, you haven't changed at all.
I haven't changed it. When I was 24, you know, I didn't really think about, oh, what do I look like, you know, as I'm playing. I would maybe think of technical things, but not, you know, what I actually look like. And then when I'm at my age now, it's not like I'm thinking about that either. But then when you're sitting there and watching the film, you know, you do realize there's this whole other aspect that people who come to see us, maybe they see us 1 year and then they won't see us 10 years later. They tune into something else that maybe not necessarily what I was tuning into. And so that was interesting for me to watch that, a certain type of progression that I usually maybe am not that so looking at so clearly as I'm performing.
There was a photograph, 1 or 2, that since joining the group 5 years ago, I've been asking them, can I please have a look at it? Because I've been hearing about it and they won't let me. And Sam got a hold of it, it's in the film, so I was very happy.
Oh, is that the nude photo you're
It's
talking
the
about?
nude photo.
Yeah.
Not to spoil the film. Now you have
Little
to come
teaser
and see it.
So what does it mean to create something that can only exist as an experience specific to a time and place and completely unrecorded?
Well, that's what gives this film its quality, because it actually becomes like a piece of music. I mean, that is what music actually is. You know, it's one of a kind experience. It only happens now. And then what's left is the memory of it. And I believe that that's ultimately what happens with 1,000 Thoughts.
I think this piece will always have spontaneity because of the live performance, but also with the narration. And there is I don't want to say static, but there is a form on the film that will not change, as we talked about. But I think having that spontaneity makes it much more exciting for it to exist.
I think as a musician, one thing that, well, you talk about that in the film, that you try to make a beautiful moral of a beautiful note every day. And there's no such thing as perfection, that we try to create something more beautiful and more meaningful through our art. And I think there's so many things we don't know in life, how time works, how music works, how memory works. And I think for me, when I watched the film, it made me question a lot of things in a good way and be curious. And just makes me curious about things.
So what has been the most important thing that you've taken away from this project as artists?
Well, being the newest member in the group, when I joined, I think it was the 40th anniversary of the quartet. And it was hard for me to grasp what that means. What does 40 years mean? I don't even understand what being 40 years old means, but to be in a group, not to
Thanks, Sonny.
But you started very young. But then watching the film, I was able to understand it better somehow. I mean, I knew them well because they're my colleagues and I travel with them a lot. We play music together, but seeing the film and what they have gone through in life, I was able to understand Neil much better. And yeah.
For me, it's very special too to go on stage, perform, and have Sam on stage too, because he's talking and speaking. And there are little times where I say a little right before we're ready to start, and he makes a statement right before that. There might be a little twinkle in his eye, and I react to that a little bit, and it's really, and it makes me think that that's really when there is no other, when it's just the four of us and we're not collaborating with anyone else. In a sense, we really are collaborating with the audience. And even though I may not see the twinkle in the eyes of an audience member, I do feel it and I do sense it. And there's Sam, and not only do I sense it from Sam, but I also see it sometimes of that. It makes a different kind of a performance, which is change, and which is really great.
There's one moment where Sam is relying on me to give him a cue. And I've come to think he doesn't really need that cue. He just wants to feel like a member of the group. And
You knew that?
Yeah,
How
I
did you
did.
know that?
I did. You know that piece well. You could come in. I'm sure you could, Sam. But he always looks over, and if I don't cue, if I make a mistake, and don't give him the cue, he'll mention it after the show. And I think it's just trying to make me feel better. But
There was that one time though I messed up. I missed it, and
Oh, you did?
I got so excited about the cue.
Just waiting.
I screwed up. Which...
Well, that's happened to all of us.
What do you hope audiences will take away from experiencing this?
There's some filmmakers who, especially documentary filmmakers, who want to change the world or feel like they'll change some laws or get somebody off death row or something. With my own work, I'm much more modest in the ambition, in a way. But I feel like I've read great books or heard music or seen films that really linger with me for weeks or months or even years afterwards. I still think about things I saw 15 years ago, certain moments. And so in a way, if one can make something that does that, changes people in a tiny way, that's a high ambition, and that's sort of the way I think about my own work. But more than that, with this piece, I really am happy because I think at the end, when people are very enthusiastically applauding, it's applauding them and appreciating people, artists who have done really fantastic work for so many years. And so to have people have an appreciation for their music, the experience of it live, and also the history of it is a really valuable thing, I think. That's my secret agenda.
I was going to say, I find that I've been always leery of having anyone do a documentary type thing about us because it's sort of a private thing what we do, and it was hard to give that up to someone to show the world what we do. But I think this is not just showing the breadth of our music and what we try to do every day. It's showing us as people. And I think that's very, very important to show audiences that even though we're playing music up there, we have different issues that we're dealing with. And that also goes into our music making.
Also, I think, you know, we've been involved with something that we all love and really enjoy and are curious about, you know, every second of the day. And, you know, and throughout time is moving on, but yet in a sense, it's kind of stands still for us because we're involved in this almost, we're in a box of great enjoyment almost. And it's, I think it's good for audience members to see that, you know, and even the idea of time, it's moving, but yet in a sense we're involved in this constantly, that it's actually not moving, and so the whole concept of time is nebulous. You know, what does that really mean? And that's kind of what a lot of physicists are coming to the conclusion. What is time? Does it really exist? Are there different dimensions? And it's kind of deep, but maybe, you know, some audience members will kind of think about that.
Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today and to talk about this performance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.